Hello, my name is Rusty Kessel, and I am the EPA project manager for the General Dynamics Longwood Superfund site located at 1333 U.S. Highway 1792 in Longwood, Seminole County, Florida. The purpose of this presentation is to familiarize the public with the proposed plan for cleaning up the site, to answer any questions you may have, and to solicit your input during the public comment period. The General Dynamics site was used for electronics manufacturing operations from 1959 to 1988. A vapor degreaser was located at this site during these operations, and chlorinated solvents for electronics degreasing operations were stored and used at the site. These electronic manufacturing operations used chlorinated solvents over a period of 30 years and resulted in groundwater contamination at the site. Here is a map showing the location of the General Dynamics Longwood Superfund site, outlined in purple, and a different Superfund site, the Sprague Electric Superfund Alternative site, outlined in orange. The Sprague Electric Superfund Alternative site is also managed by the EPA and also had groundwater contamination for operations at that site around the same time period. The Sprague site is currently undergoing cleanup by the potentially responsible party under oversight by the EPA. The adjacent Sprague Electric Company Superfund Alternative site also has chlorinated solvent groundwater contamination, and these contaminant plumes have become commingled. The General Dynamics site property was transferred in October 2015 to the Seminole College Foundation and is currently used for warehousing purposes by Seminole State College. Chlorinated solvents at the General Dynamics Longwood Superfund site were released to groundwater through their storage in an on-site above-ground storage tank and their use in the on-site vapor degreaser. Here is a map showing the location of the former vapor degreaser, the former storage tank for the chemicals used in the vapor degreaser, and the location of the groundwater monitoring wells and soil sampling locations at the General Dynamics Longwood Superfund site. Groundwater monitoring wells are just what they sound like. Wells we sample periodically to monitor levels and movement of any contamination in the groundwater. Here is a map showing the groundwater flow direction at the site. Groundwater flows from the adjacent former Sprague Electric Superfund Alternative site onto the General Dynamics Longwood Superfund site. Historically, groundwater contamination from both sites has been mixed together and become commingled over time due to the groundwater flow. However, much of the contamination coming from the Sprague Superfund Alternative site has been cleaned up over the last 12 years under the supervision of the Environmental Protection Agency. The proposed plan we are discussing today is for the cleanup of the groundwater contamination that originated at the General Dynamics Longwood Superfund site. The human health risk assessment was focused on the potential for future exposure of on-site workers, commercial, industrial, construction, utility to contaminants of concern detected in groundwater and in soil gas. The contaminants of concern at this site are volatile organic compounds that vaporize in air, which is why gas from contaminated soil is a potential exposure pathway. Surface soil exposure pathways were not evaluated quantitatively in the human health risk assessment because detected concentrations were below screening values. So exposure to surface soil does not pose any acceptable risk and does not need to be cleaned up. For on-site construction and utility workers, the risk of exposure through the soil vapor pathway was less than the U.S. EPA and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection target risk levels. The primary exposure pathway associated with potential risks and hazards at the site are ingestion of groundwater. The non-cancer and carcinogenic risks are driven primarily by the presence of trichloroethylene in the contaminated groundwater. If you are hooked up to the city or county water supply, your drinking water is safe. No public drinking water supply wells have been impacted by contamination from the site. The EPA doesn't know of anyone in the vicinity using well water for drinking water. Even still, the goal of this remedy is to restore the groundwater at the site to drinking water quality. The remedial action objectives at the site are to prohibit use of, direct contact with, and ingestion of groundwater with COC concentration above cleanup levels that present an unacceptable risk to human health. That means keeping anyone from using, touching, or drinking contaminated groundwater. Also, to prevent exposure to COCs through the vapor intrusion pathway that could result in an unacceptable risk to human health. That means keeping anyone from breathing the vaporized form of the contamination. And finally, to restore groundwater to drinking water quality throughout the plume to meet federal primary drinking water standards or more stringent Florida Department of Environmental Protection's groundwater target cleanup levels based on classification of the aquifer as a potential source of drinking water, Class G2. That means the plan is to clean up the groundwater so that it could be used as a source of drinking water in the future. 5 remedial cleanup alternatives were considered. Alternative 1 was no action. What would happen if no one did anything to clean up the site? Alternative 2 was institutional controls on groundwater use only. That means just prohibiting anyone from using the groundwater with no plans for cleanup of the groundwater. Alternative 3 was monitored natural attenuation of the groundwater. That means watching and waiting to see if nature would clean up the groundwater contamination on its own. Alternative 4 was containment and above ground ex situ treatment of groundwater by extraction wells, which means pumping the contaminated groundwater out of the ground, treating it, and then discharging the cleaned up groundwater to the surface water on site. And alternative 5 was below ground in situ groundwater treatment by reagent injection. This means injection material into the ground to treat the contamination where it is in place below ground. This slide shows the estimated cost of the 5 remedial alternatives that were considered in this proposed plan. EPA prefers alternative 5, which involves injection of a treatment technology into the groundwater. Alternative 5 would eliminate the risk to human health through the treatment of the contamination, along with institutional controls to limit the use of groundwater until it can be cleaned up. The preferred remedy is expected to reach cleanup goals within 5 years. If the cleanup goals for groundwater are not met within 5 years, the EPA will conduct an evaluation of the remedy known as a 5-year review. This virtual meeting is being recorded and transcribed to ensure that all comments and questions are acknowledged in the responsiveness summary. Please state your name before providing comments or asking questions. Please ensure that your computer phone remain on mute when not speaking. You may also place your questions or comments in the chat for acknowledgement during the virtual meeting.